Hey everyone, it's Melissa. Welcome back or welcome to Honeybee's Hangout and to another Top 5 Friday, which I'm sure you're all really excited about. You probably thought I ran out of topics by now, but people are actually suggesting topics to me, so we'll have weeks worth of them. That's thrilling. I know that's thrilling for you. And this week, this one that I decided I wanted to do this week is actually one that when I first said I wanted to do the top 5 Fridays, my best friend said, "Oh, you should do," and it was top 5 TV pets. So that's what we're going to do today. Before we do that, we have to answer the trivia question from last week, which is how many happy haunts make their home at Disney's Haunted Mansion? And the answer is 999. Now, this week, instead of doing a trivia, I want to do a poll, and I'll tell you why. Because when I was putting this list together, I noticed something. I noticed that when you go and you look at like lists of TV pets throughout the years that have played that are like memorable, it's very dog heavy. In order to find a cat, I actually went animated. And I'll tell you why. My other option for a cat was to use Salem from Sabrina the Teenage Witch in the 90s and The Chilling Adventures of Sabrina that just ended on Netflix. However, I was morally torn as to whether or not Salem is technically a pet, right? Because in the sitcom version, he is, I mean, I guess he's their pet, but realistically, like, he's a human that's like under a curse because of he's being punished. So they know that. So it's not the same as having like a regular cat, right? Like they know, and he talks, like they know he's a person. And then in the Chilling Adventures of Sabrina, they say it more as like he's her familiar, but is a witch's familiar technically a pet? I don't know. So I was really so uncertain as to whether or not I considered him a pet that I just decided to do it as like an honorable mention and be like, I would have used Salem if I felt more secure in whether or not he's a pet. So that's instead of the trivia this week, that is the poll. I need to know what people think. Is Salem a pet or not? And now we should get into put that in the comments, or you could do it like in the comments on Instagram if you follow me on Instagram. So the first pet on my list is Arnold Ziffel. And don't worry, if you're under 40, I'm going to explain who that is. It should come as no surprise to anyone that knows me in actual life that when I sat down to make this list, the first animal I thought of was a pig. I have been pretty obsessed with the idea of having a pig for a pet since I was like in my young teens, and not like a pot-bellied pig, like a big pink pig, like to live at a farm where I could build the proper enclosure for one, because you have to have a certain kind of fencing. Pigs can be very destructive. Like you probably don't want to keep one in your house if you value the inside of your house. But I'm pretty sure this show is the reason that I originally thought, wouldn't it be lovely to live with a pig? So Arnold Ziffel was on a sitcom called Green Acres that ran from 1965 to 1971. Anybody that's in my age group or older is like, why are you telling me that? Like, I know what Green Acres is. But I can't remember the last time it was on TV like regularly. It used to be on because it ended, obviously if it ended in 71, I wasn't born until 78. So I didn't see it in its first run, clearly. But I remember watching it all the time in reruns. It used to be on in the daytime when I was really young. I would stay with my great aunt Hank and her husband, my Uncle Frank, on school vacations, and it would come on in the daytime in the summer and like during like Christmas break or whatever. And then when Nickelodeon became a thing and they first started doing the Nick at Night programming, it was on Nick at Night for a while. But I don't know. Like, I found it last night on an app that I downloaded called Tubi, Tubi. But I don't know the last time that it was on TV, like just to watch. So that's why I'm thinking maybe under 40 or definitely like under 30 might not know what it is. So the show was, the basic concept of the show is that there is this New York City lawyer named Oliver Douglas, and he marries this like really fancy lady named Lisa, and she loves New York, but he has it in his head that he wants to be a farmer. So, totally without her permission, just on a whim, he decides to buy a farm in a place called Hooterville. And he makes her move there. And when they get there, this farm is really run down and dilapidated, and she's freaking out. Well, she's freaking out before they left New York, but it's even worse once they get there. And they meet. The thing about Hooterville is like everybody there is weird. There's like really weird people, which I think is part of why I thought it was really funny as a kid. And it was actually, I watched the pilot episode, like the first episode last night, just because I was like thinking about it, and I was like, oh, let me see if, I still think it's funny. It actually is still funny. It's old school humor. Some of it's kind of cheesy, some of it's kind of predictable. But I did find myself like actually laughing out loud a few times. Like, it was still really funny to me as an adult. Although maybe that doesn't mean anything, because sometimes I do tend to have like, I like dad humor, like cheesy, corny stuff. So maybe don't go by me. Maybe just watch it yourself and see if you think it's funny. But one of the people, or two of the people in Hooterville are the Ziffels. It is Fred Ziffel and his wife Doris. Now, they don't have any human children, but they do have this pig named Arnold that they basically treat as their son. So, and everybody in the town kind of goes along with it. And after Oliver and Lisa move to Hooterville, Lisa starts going along with it. Like, nobody thinks there's anything weird about this couple having a pig as a son. Like, he goes to school with the other kids in the town, and everyone seems to understand him. Like, he'll, grunt, and that's him talking, and everybody understands what he's saying, and they respond to him like they're holding an actual conversation. And the only one that thinks there's anything weird about it is Oliver. He doesn't understand what the pig is saying. He doesn't understand why everyone just plays along with the fact that this couple claims this pig is their son. And he at times gets really like bent out of shape about it. But that was my favorite part of the show when I was a kid, was the fact that this couple had a pig for a son. And like I said in the beginning, I'm pretty sure that's the reason that I ultimately decided that I should have a pig, and that pig should maybe be my son or my daughter. Maybe not. But I say my cat's my son, so what's the difference? I mean, granted, I have conversations with him too. So I know what he's saying, just because you all don't. So, um, so that's number one, Arnold Ziffel. Now, number two is going to be, I really tried really hard not to put a bunch of freaking dogs on this list because, like I said, the lists were really dog heavy. There's seriously something about cats and TV shows. Maybe it's because cats are difficult to work with. Like, they're not really super trainable. Although they are very food motivated. But I didn't want a whole list of dogs. So it was either dogs or it was like really out there sort of pets. So I tried to do a kind of a combination. I tried to only do one dog and then some Stranger Things. Not like the show Stranger Things, just Stranger Pets. So the dog that I decided on after much consideration, because I did consider Tiger from the Brady Bunch. One of my favorite TV dogs was I don't know if everybody knows the show Empty Nest with Richard Mulligan, but it was a spinoff of the Golden Girls, and he had a like red Saint Bernard named Dreyfus, and he was gorgeous, and like I loved that dog. But I don't know how well people actually know that dog. But the one I think is probably like etched in my memory from my time growing up, and it came up again recently, is the dogs that belonged to the Tanners on Full House, and then more recently the Tanner / Fuller family on Fuller House on Netflix. I think it was kind of cool the way first of all, they're golden retrievers, which are beautiful and sweet. Definitely wanted one after it showed up on Full House, and then like the Airbud Airbud is golden retriever. I think there was even some sort of like crossover. It wasn't even the same dog, or they were from the same line, between the dogs that were on Full House and the dogs that were in Airbud. So in the original series, there's a dog named Minnie who shows up, runs away from home. She shows up in the Tanner's backyard. The kids fall in love with her. She keeps going upstairs into Uncle Jesse's room and making herself comfortable in his bed. They're looking for her owner, but the girls really want to keep her. And then out of nowhere, the dog just decides to have puppies. They didn't realize she was pregnant. She gives birth to the puppies in Jesse's bed. And ultimately, they do find her owner, and he comes to pick her up. And to thank them for taking care of her, he offers them a puppy, which they accept and wind up naming Comet. And Comet is, I believe he comes in, I'm trying to remember. I want to say season 3, like it's the beginning of season 3 that they get Comet, and he's their dog straight through till the end of the series. And then, more than 2 decades later, Netflix revives the family with Fuller House. And in the very first episode, you find out that DJ's former boyfriend and, spoiler alert, future husband, Steve, owns one of Comet's descendants that he has named Comet Jr. Jr. Don't ask. And Comet Junior Jr., in addition to having a strange name, is also a girl. So they decide that they're going to have one of Comet Junior Jr.'s puppies, which they wind up naming Cosmo. And that is their dog throughout the 5 seasons of Fuller House. I absolutely loved those dogs growing up. There's something about, like, I don't know. I guess it's because of that show that I always think about, like, if I had a family, I would want to get a golden retriever. Because they seem like, you know, it makes you think of a family dog, because that's how I'm used to seeing it, as like on a TV show with a family. But I was never allowed to have one. My mom said they had too much hair, and she said that we weren't gonna, my brother and I wouldn't brush it, and it would all be her responsibility. We'll see. I'm not dead yet. You never know. Okay. The next one's weird, but, like, hear me out. It is from the TV show The Munsters. And they had a very unusual pet. They had a fire-breathing dragon that they named Spot. So I spent hours upon hours of my childhood dreaming of having a dragon as a pet, which, if we're being honest and in extreme hindsight, was like massively problematic. Because, first off, I lived in a row home, whereas the Munsters lived in like a Victorian mansion. And Spot lived under the stairs. But in our houses, we couldn't even fit like a full-size box spring up the stairs, let alone house a fully grown dragon underneath them. So that was never going to happen. And also, I wasn't allowed to use the stove till I was 12. So I'm going to assume I probably also would not have been allowed to have a fire-breathing pet. If that had been an option in the world at large, I'm pretty sure my mother still would have said no. But really, I feel like I thought about this when I was making this list. I feel like the Munsters were ahead of their time, right? Because that show came on in 1967, 1964. And it was almost like 50 years after that before Game of Thrones came on. And then, like, literally everybody and their mother wanted a dragon, right? As soon as Daenerys had her dragons, everybody's like, oh, I want a dragon. But I wanted a dragon in like 1985 when I was watching reruns of The Munsters, because that family was just obviously ahead of their time. And they weren't letting their dragons run the countryside either, like eating people's flocks and like burning their little boys up and shit. They kept that dragon in the house. And they kept the dragon in the house, and they roasted freaking hot dogs on his breath, because that's how badass they were. Yeah. Now, speaking of Game of Thrones, this is hands down the most modern, if not only really modern, pet on this list. Apparently, either I don't watch enough modern television, or people just don't have pets as much. Like, maybe it's too hard to work with animals, or maybe it's like, animal rights or something. They don't make as many. They don't give as many animals regular jobs. Like, maybe they just do movies and stuff. I don't know. It's like, how kids can only work so much. There's like the child labor laws and stuff. For like young, I mean, it's not just for actors and actresses. It's not just for child stars. It's for everyone that's a child that has a job. It's just under a certain age, like most children that have jobs are going to be in show business of some sort. So maybe there's like a animal labor law too. I don't know. I have to look that up. But whilst I said that wasn't going to put more than one of these as a dog, didn't say anything about their ancestors, which are wolves, or in this case, direwolves, or in this very specific case, Ghost, the direwolf. So, Game of Thrones started with 6 direwolves. Massive, beautiful. They were at one time real. Like you would have seen a dire wolf at the same time that you would have seen a woolly mammoth. Obviously, we would see neither of those, although I did find out that if you go to California and you go to the La Brea tar pits, they do have like skeletons of dire wolves, or like, fossilized dire wolves, which is the closest any of us are going to get unless someone pulls a Jurassic Park and finds a way to bring them back, which for the record, I am not endorsing. I don't do that. Just watch those movies. You will see why that is a terrible idea. But the show started with 6 of them, right? 1 for each of Ned Stark's children, his 5 natural children and his bastard son. Now, whilst everyone mocked Jon Snow for the fact that he was stuck with the runty albino direwolf, realistically, by the time the series ends, Jon Snow is the only one with a direwolf that is verifiably still alive. I know it's a point of discussion. At the point in the books that George R.R. Martin got to, there is hinting at the fact that Arya's wolf, Nymeria, is still alive. I think there's a brief hint of it in the series, but realistically, we don't know, because whatever was planned by the author has not come to fruition. I mean, in the books, it seems like there might be a thing there, because it gets mentioned, and why else would it get mentioned unless there was going to be a thing? But I don't know. Maybe someday we'll find out. I won't hold my breath over it. They start with 6, and then the reason the Ghost winds up being the only one left is because they are systematically killed off throughout the course of the books, the TV series. I'm assuming for no reason other than the fact that George R.R. Martin's penchant for wanting to kill literally everyone extends beyond human beings to like the animal world. Oh, there's 6 of them? Oh, almost like 4 or 5 I could kill. But it's great, honestly, that in the end, Ghost is the only one left because he is easily the most badass. I don't know. I mean, I guess they acted that way because it was written that way, but I don't know why the mocking for the being albino, because any wolf could be gray or brown. Like, albino's special and unique and easily the prettiest, right? Like when there were like 5 other wolves, I couldn't tell those 5 wolves apart. I didn't know which one was which. I always knew which one was Ghost because he was snowy white and beautiful. Just because something is different doesn't mean it's not beautiful. Could wind up being the coolest of them all. You never know. So you should be nice to people and animals that are different. That is my public service announcement of the day. And finally, we will move on to the only cat on my list. And as I said at the beginning, because I couldn't find very many cats, and because I was uncertain about whether or not I wanted to consider Salem a pet, I decided to go with an animated cat, and that is Garfield. Now, I know there might be like a disagreement here because Garfield started off as a cartoon character in the newspaper, in the comics, and start off as an animated cartoon character on television. But I came to know him from the show Garfield and Friends, which came on in 1988, from 1988 to 1994. And that's the one that was like the cartoon that had like Odie, and eventually they got that little gray kitten Nermal, and Garfield used to always say he was going to ship her off to Abu Dhabi, which I still tell people sometimes. However, if that person is under a certain age, it does get me some really weird looks. But I think, is it possible for an animated cat to be my soulmate? Because if it is, I feel like Garfield might be it. Number one, he's a ginger. I do love a ginger. Number two, he likes to sleep, like a lot. And sleeping's my most favorite thing in the world. Number two, he loves lasagna. I could probably eat like half a lasagna myself. That's not good. We need to work on limits. Actually, I probably couldn't anymore because I'm old and I have stomach issues now. But I used to coulda. I used to coulda eaten half a lasagna by myself in my younger years, when I was more active and cared less. And then also, he's very easily irritated by like exuberance and cheerfulness. Like Odie, the dog, is like super, which, do you know, I think that I read somewhere that he's a beagle, which I would have never, I mean, I don't think I ever attributed any sort of breed to Odie, but I did read, but do think I read somewhere that he's a beagle. He's always like, and all happy and wants to play, and then Garfield like punts him off the table. And then also, that's why he keeps trying to ship Nermal off to Abu Dhabi, because she's like little and cute and sweet and sunshiny, and she gets on his nerves. But it never works. She never goes to Abu Dhabi. She always comes right back. So those are the ones that I put on my list that I feel are like the top 5. Like, if I were going to have, like, if I were going to pick a pet from the television, I'd probably pick one of those. But there are other ones that, like, are obviously good that I clearly would enjoy. It's just like, it's top 5 Friday. It's like top 15 Friday. So you really have to limit your options. You have to cut it down. I was thinking about too, a lot of people were, when I was like looking for ones that I wanted to put on my list, there were a lot of people that were going back and forth in an argument over the show Friends, and the fact that, so Ross had the monkey, Marcel, and then Chandler and Joey had the chick and the duck, which didn't have names. And there were like lists and like people like fighting about it in the comment section, where they were like, oh, the chicken and the duck were superior to the monkey. And then somebody else would be like, well, the chicken and the duck never did anything. And I obviously didn't wind up putting either one of those things on the list, because like ultimately I decided I would rather have these pets than either a monkey or a chicken and duck. Well, definitely not a chicken and duck, because I'm not a big fan of just like having birds just ramble through my house. I feel like, well, I guess you could put a diaper on them. I learned from watching Esther the Wonder Pig on Instagram, and things like that, because they have a turkey that goes inside the house and he wears a turkey diaper. And I never knew I never knew you could put a diaper on a bird before. I mean, I don't know that I would want to try to put a diaper on a bird. But regardless, the chicken and the duck on Friends did not wear diapers in the apartment. Where did they go to the bathroom? Like, anywhere they wanted? I don't think I'm okay with that. Also, my best friend does not like animals, anything that's like flappy and unpredictable. She doesn't like winged animals. Like she likes birds from a distance. Like the birds in the yard are pretty. She doesn't want the birds to come like by her. So, and actually I'm more and more in tune with that way of thinking, because I had some scary bird incidents over the summertime. And then one like on a nice day in the winter where I went outside and then a freaking hawk like flew across my porch and I could feel its wing like graze my face. So I too have grown to have a slight disdain for things that are flappy and unpredictable, which is, maybe it's karma because I used to mock her. I mean, granted, she's afraid of like ladybugs and butterflies. But then again, I saw on some talk show that Nicole Kidman does not like butterflies for the same reason, because they're flappy and unpredictable. So I guess if like it's good enough for an Academy Award winner, it's good enough for normal people, everyday people. So I didn't choose either one of those things. And I think, I feel like monkey is one of those things where like you think it would be cool to have a monkey until it starts like flinging its poo, or until it gets like super aggressive and tries to take your face off. Like, I don't think it would actually be cool to have a monkey. I mean, they train them, right? Like, Marcel was one of those little, like, capuchin monkeys, and they train those guys. They train them to do stuff for people that are quadriplegic. But, I don't know. Does that change their behavior? Like, does training a monkey change the fact that it's a monkey? And at some point, is it gonna, like, revert into its natural behavior? That's something else that I don't know, and maybe I should look into, because I do really if I don't know things, or if I get interested in things, I tend to over research them. But at the very least, maybe I gotta find out if it's really safe to own like a capuchin monkey, a helper monkey that goes and gets you things from the closet. I always thought I'd like to have a helper monkey. I don't have anything wrong with me. I mean, that requires a helper monkey. Like, there's nothing a monkey could do that I couldn't do myself. It's just that sometimes I'm lazy and, like, I would like to, be like, monkey, please go get me a glass of iced tea and a biscuit. I don't know why I said biscuit. As if I routinely, like, okay, not like a biscuit, like we would have a biscuit, like a buttermilk biscuit, but like a biscuit like you would have in England, because I'm obsessed with British snack foods. But I don't normally have biscuits in my house. Like, I have biscuits in my house right now, because my cousin Leslie brought me some over here for like Christmassy time. But I don't have, it's not something that I routinely stock. I don't normally have tea and biscuits. So I don't know why I said that. It's probably just my secret yearning to be that I wish I had been born English. But maybe if I had been, I would think American things were better. I don't know. I feel like everybody's always like the grass is always greener. I might like, if I were born in England and I had access to that chocolate and stuff all the time, maybe I would think that Hershey's was better when I like came to America. Although I rarely see that being the case because I watch a lot of taste test videos and stuff, or like trying British candy, trying American candy, and I very rarely do I ever see like someone from England or Australia or anything like that try American candy and be like, oh yeah, this is clearly a higher quality candy. That like never happens. Occasionally you will find an American that will try chocolate from somewhere else and be like, yeah, this is clearly a higher quality chocolate. But yeah, I hardly ever see the opposite way around. All right, it is Friday night. I want to get this posted and also order a dinner. Maybe pizza. Maybe, I don't know, maybe I don't want to order dinner. Maybe I'm going to make a Caesar salad from a bag and some chicken. Depends if the chicken's still frozen or not. All right. I hope everyone has a great weekend. I will see you next Tuesday. And take care of yourselves. Bye.